All right, what is going on, guys? It's Raul here. We got the Gannon Buhr Discmania money stamp, we'll just call it. I think it's Horizon Metal Flake C-Line? Horizon Metal Flake C-Line FD3. We're gonna do a review of it. It feels like it has a little bit shoulder and then pretty flat on the top. So what I'm gonna do is compare that to this Solar Flare, Alden Harris's signature disc. It feels pretty similar, has that little shoulder and pretty flat on top. This was Horizon S-Line versus Horizon Metal Flake C-Line. And then I have just the classic Discmania Open Color Glow FD3 flat, super beefy FD3. This thing should be beefier than these two. I'm guessing this is gonna fly somewhat similar to this, but I'm not exactly sure. So let's just go ahead and see. Before we get into the throws, I'll just talk about the plastic. So it feels a little bit gummy in the middle. It's not super flexy. Like, it definitely still feels pretty good in the hand, but it's not as stiff as the Solar Flare or the Color Glow FD3. Like, I can get a good grip on it and kind of dig my thumb in there and, you know, bend it a little bit in the flight plate, but it's not super flexy by any means. And then, like I said, on top, it's pretty flat. Underneath, it just, yeah, feels like a normal FD3. So let's go ahead and give it a throw. We'll start out with this, and then we'll go with the Solar Flare and then the Color Glow. I'm gonna throw these. That guy's worrying me. I'm gonna throw these kind of straight to those trees on a little bit of hyzer and just try to get a slight hyzer. See if we could get this to push a little bit. All right, well, that came out early, but that pushed straight for a while and then faded out. So I could tell it's definitely gonna be a bit straighter. That was the first throw of the day, by the way. So that's my excuse for that early release. Also, that guy on the right is kind of making me a little nervous. There we go, got a hold of that Solar Flare a little bit better. It pushed straight but started fading out even a little bit earlier than that first one, which wasn't thrown as hard. So I feel like it's straighter than the Solar Flare, but we'll get a couple more reps just to have a better idea. All right, now the Color Glow. This thing's for sure more overstable than those. Yeah, you could see the early fade and the big skip left. That thing's for sure more overstable, but we're definitely gonna get a couple more throws and see how they fly on some different angles. All right, so in terms of distances, the money stamp went the shortest, then the FD3, then the Solar Flare. I think that's only because I got a hold of the Solar Flare better than the money stamp, and it still pushed straight and was pretty close to the other two. The Color Glow was like maybe 20, 30 feet short of the Solar Flare. The Solar Flare was a little bit furthest and the straightest. So we're gonna try some kind of flat to a little bit of Annie lines and see what kind of flex we can get out of them. All right, so here we go, a little Annie with this thing. Don't hit that tree. All right, so that had a little bit more integrity than I kind of expected. We do have a left to right wind too, and it did hold for a while, but it also came out pretty good. So it's definitely still overstable, but has some nice glide to it. See if we could get a similar line with the Solar Flare. Oh yeah, very similar line. So very similar line, maybe a touch less angle, but it definitely did not want to hold over. The money stamp wanted to hold over a little bit more. Still had some good integrity, definitely still FD3. Now we'll go with the flat Color Glow FD3. We got this guy walking his dog in the way though, so. So that actually is a very similar angle, but you could see how much earlier it wants to fight out of that and just get left right away. So I think that was a good tell for how stable they are, because I put them on very similar angles and they came out at slightly different times. All right, so that was a much better test. We had the money stamp going significantly further, maybe 40 feet past the solar flare, and the pinky was probably 20 feet in front of the solar flare. Maybe this one might be a little straighter, but it does still have integrity. Like, I don't really see it flipping over unless there's like crazy wind, but I threw it into a good amount of head left to right wind on Anhyzer and it came out. So it's definitely stable. It could be a good complement to like a really overstable fairway driver like a FD3 or a super overstable Firebird or something like that. I have that slot in my bag already. It's that red tie-dye Firebird. I can throw it on hyzer and it'll glide opposed to being super overstable. So it gets me distance while still being overstable. It's a really good slot. But we'll just throw it on some spike hyzers because I really want to see how these compare, and then this will just be a good tell for reference. So let's go again, money stamp first, kind of more of a spiky angle. Oh yeah, that's straight. Okay, that might be going in the bag because that feels like it's going further than my red Firebird and it just punches, but it has that good stability. I don't know, I really like how that feels right now. Solar flare, let's compare it. So that solar flare is pretty similar. I like how that's feeling too, but it's just a hair more overstable, so it's a little bit closer to this. I kind of like discs to have a little bit of separation so that way they can have their own spot in the bag. So if I put one of those in the bag, it's probably going to be the money stamp. Let's just compare with this one now. Oh. That thing's just so overstable, does not really want to go anywhere, but that disc is probably never leaving the bag because it's so overstable. All right, so now I think we have a pretty good read on these discs. This one about 20 feet further than the solar flare. This one about 20 feet further than the pink guy. So they're definitely that order and stability. Now let's just try it on some like little flexy sidearms to flat. We got a little bit of headwind, so let's see how these guys react. I would like for this to be a forehand disc, so we'll try to just put it flat or like a touch of Annie, see how it reacts. Hopefully it's a bit stable. I'm expecting a little bit of turn, but then to come back. Okay, that's not bad. At first it started turning pretty hard, but I did put it on a good amount of angle in the headwind, low, and it pushed and still fought back. So it's definitely good to have that slot in the bag. It is pretty similar to my red Firebird, so we'll kind of, you know, see which one wins the race over those two, but now we'll try the solar flare. Same angle. Same exact angle, nice and low, pushing on that Annie, but you could see that one wanted to come out a little bit earlier, kind of had that fight in it a little bit more. Now we'll go with this guy. This is one of my main sidearm discs. Kind of only gets thrown sidearm, not very many backhand throws on this guy. So a little bit higher, didn't get as good of an angle or nose angle on that one, but you could see right away it wanted to come out, and that's just such a reliable disc. All right, that's it. That's the review on the Gannon Buhr Horizon C-Line Metal Flake FD3. This thing is nice and straight, but definitely still has the flight characteristics of an FD3. I would say it's like a straighter Firebird, but you know, has a good hand feel, has a slight shoulder, so gives it a little bit of extra glide on the finish, but it's kind of like your overstable Thunderbird to straight Firebird. I think it pairs well with something like this, a very overstable FD3 or Firebird, and this, so that way you can have something that is never gonna flip, never gonna push, always gonna come straight down, and then have something that you could stretch out a little bit, maybe 340 or so for my range, but be able to keep it on hyzer and get that gliding fade out of it. So that's it. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next one.